Welcome back to Remembering Smallville,
a Smallville rewatch podcast.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Brett. Hey everyone, how we doing this week?
Good.
Yeah?
Good?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've got a fun question for you, and it's so funny and it's personal to me. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
You should tell them why you're asking this question.
Okay, the reason I'm asking this question, we are recording at 7 a.m. this morning.
Yay.
That's just how it worked out.
That's how the schedule worked out this time. And for me personally, I'm sure you guys can all tell from my voice, I am a morning person. I love the mornings. Even if I go to bed super late, my wife, I'll let her speak to how much of a night owl she is. We might stay up till after midnight, but my body will naturally wake up on its own somewhere between 4 and, if I'm lucky, as late as 6 a.m. on its own. And I just love to be popping out of bed. I'll sing songs right out, hit the floor just running. I'm kind of a goober when it comes to the morning. No one else in my household is.
When you said I get up at 4 in the morning, my eyes got so wide. If only we had been recording that moment, because I'm such a night owl that I can go from a normal sleep schedule to nocturnal in the blink of an eye. Like, legitimately.
It's true.
When I was teaching elementary school, I'd have summers off and I was not married. I was single. I literally would be up all night. My cue to go to bed was the birds in the morning. I was like, oh, the birds, I better go take a nap.
Oh, man. Nope.
Yeah. And I'm a morning person and a night owl.
It's a real problem.
So I want to stay up all night, but I also love the morning. And it can create some interesting dichotomy. It's kind of rough sometimes.
For example, we just stated we're recording at 7 a.m., which means Daniel and I had to get up, get ready, leave our house, drive to where we record before that so we could be here set up by 7. But yet we were up till what, 2 in the morning last night?
Yeah, 2 or 2:30.
Just hanging out.
So I have a question, Daniel. Are you grumpy when you don't get enough sleep? Oh, let me ask Nicole that. Nicole?
I don't think he's grumpy. This morning he was really argumentative. Just for some reason, everything I said, he was like, no, I think you're wrong.
Like, you need more sleep.
I think it's going to be an interesting recording session.
Daniel, I just saw him breathe and try to refute that, and then he thought through. I watched his face. He was like, I'm going to say, no, better not.
I was going to say, I wasn't that argumentative. And I was like, that's actually kind of argumentative. See, I don't get grumpy by anything really than hunger.
Oh, yes.
Like, I get the hangries bad. It's bad. Oh, man, my whole life falls apart if I get too hungry.
Daniel, I think that's great that only hunger makes you grumpy. I feel like hunger, lack of sleep, if you look at me wrong, like everything makes me grumpy. So.
That's funny because I've never seen Brett and Kim grumpy in my life yet.
Well, you're in for a treat.
No, on the flip side of me being so positive and peppy in the morning, really, once we hit like 8 o'clock at night, I stop being fun. One, my filter falls off, which is not great around children or other people. Like, I just get grumpy and I'll say the mean things. Or what I've done over my life to rein that in is I just go silent. So if you see I just like stop being fun in the evening, that's why. It's better for me just to shut up.
So my whole life was a night owl. Because at night, when you're young at night, that's when your anxiety hits, right, Nicole? Do you feel like that?
It's 24/7. I've never noticed it.
Mine's always worse at night. So as a kid, I'd be like, I don't want to go to bed. Like, I got to stay up because I'd be super anxious. And then when I had kids, I'm like, this is the only time I get me time or Brett and I time. And so I was a super big night owl. So I'd make him stay up till like 2, and then he'd wake up early automatically. But now that I'm older and my kids are older, I'm like, oh, I don't have to take care of you all day. So I can get what I need to done in the day. And I think because I'm older, I get more tired. So now I'm not a morning or a night person. I'm like 8:30, and then I'm like, let's sleep till 9. But I read something the other day that it was saying women need more sleep than men.
I've heard
and I
that.
felt so heard. I was like, yes, we do. Because our hormones, like we need sleep. Like your nutty buddies, okay, they help replenish your hormones, your testosterone. And you can do that whether you're awake or asleep. Where women need to be sleeping to replenish our hormones. And so, yeah, I was like, thank you. I definitely need more sleep than a man. Because Brett can be great with no sleep. And I'm the worst person if I don't get my sleep.
It's not true. She thinks so, but it's not true.
And I get sick. If I don't get enough sleep, I get sick.
That's true.
Before we move on to, I wanted to tell you that we got a private message from somebody who gave us a testimonial. And
About our pod?
yes. And so I'm actually going to read this to you guys and everyone who's listening. And hopefully this person is listening today. So this is from someone named Celeste. Don't know who the last name is. And she told us what she thinks of our show. So I'm going to let you guys know and you can react all you want. So she says, I had never seen or had much interest in Smallville until this podcast came out. Now I'm totally hooked on both the podcast and the show. I really love watching an episode and then going to relive it through the show's commentary. I can't get enough. They've helped me watch the show with new eyes and appreciate it even more. It's such a compelling show and the podcast just makes it that much better.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gosh, Celeste, you're a new favorite person.
Yes. If we had merch, we'd send you some.
The only thing I'm going to say, Celeste, is you could have thrown in a little bit into your commentary about dropping the Twilight references.
Oh, I'm assuming she appreciates it.
She didn't say anything, so she loves it.
Therefore, it must be fine.
This is day 200 something of me saying, if you do not want us to mention Twilight, you should comment or send us a testimonial and say the only thing I hate about the show is that they talk about Twilight. And guess what? It'll probably still keep going, but it might lessen.
I am about to tell you, I don't know if I have any Twilight commentary today. I mean, I'm looking for it now. You better believe it. But if you hadn't said anything, I probably wouldn't have said anything.
Well, speaking of saying anything,
Let's say something.
Let's get into season 2, episode 16, Fever.
I told a joke on a Zoom meeting, and no one laughed. It turns out I'm not remotely funny. Now, if you laughed at that, you should follow us at Remembering Smallville on Instagram. If you didn't laugh because this is a terrible joke, you should follow us on at Remembering Smallville.
in this episode, Clark rushes to find an antidote after Martha is infected with a toxic virus and falls into a coma. But when Clark also falls ill, it is up to Jonathan to save the day. To further complicate things, Dr. Bryce demands an explanation from Jonathan when he refuses to let her treat Clark. Also, there's some dust.
Some serious dust.
So this episode, to me, one of the first things I kind of wrote as we were kind of getting into watching it was, this kind of feels like a filler episode,
but it's not.
It has all this more heavier type of stuff
for sure.
and themes to it.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel weird about this episode. I'm not really sure. So maybe talking about it will help me organize
That's how
that.
Brett was. That's exactly what he said.
What did you think of it, Kim?
I really loved it, but I felt the same way. I'm like, this could be a filler. What? No, it can't.
I agree. Like, I feel like if we took it out, we can't.
No, I think it's definitely important.
I think it's plot and relationship important.
It was a
There's-
building episode.
Yeah.
Nothing finished. It just started a bunch of stuff.
That's true.
I like
That's
that.
why it feels like a filler. It's an intermediary plot-driven episode, but it's, yeah.
There's a
Which
lot
we
of
haven't
little
had a
things
lot
in this
of.
episode. Yeah,
Is
there's
this
a lot.
the mid-season?
It's actually after mid-season.
Yeah, because episode 16 is beyond midway, so...
Usually they have, 24?
Well, 21.
It starts with Martha deciding to bury the flower jar that has the alien disc in the jar, and it feels odd that she's doing this because she's always
burying
been,
it under lead paint.
I noticed that. So that's my theory, is the lead paint has reacted with
What?
the lead paint. And I'm a few bit of it's leaked. It's reacted with the micro traces of
Oh, okay.
like kryptonite in the soil.
in the soil, right?
and it's created these little toxic spores because it's green. I'm assuming and it has to be kryptonite something because of Clark. So that's my theory.
I think that's weird because then every time they opened up a kryptonite box that is lead, they would be toxic because they'd react with each other.
Lead paint is not the same thing as lead, is it?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
still got lead in the same form.
The part that I thought was weird is just that Martha was being secretive.
I hated that.
I hated it.
Yeah,
too.
it was really... I don't think it was done well. I don't think it was explained well enough from the get-go in how they showed it to make sense. It felt totally out of character and wrong. Like, why is she keeping this secret? Like, this is a huge deal. They're looking for this. They're all stressed about it. Why would you keep that secret?
But then when you find out, I was like, okay, that makes sense, but it's still not like her. She tells them everything.
Yeah, they should have shown it somehow a little better or made her a little less sneaky or have her tell Jonathan. Jonathan probably would have been a bit on board with that.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why she hid it then in this moment is because Jonathan is fixing something under the sink and she had hid the flour jar under the sink. So when Jonathan goes to repair the leaky pipe, she's like, my secret. And then she goes to hide it again.
And she's hiding it under lead paint because the lead can be like a barrier. So like
Clark can't see.
sense it. Okay.
Yeah,
Or
so if
see-
Clark
she
X-rays
really
around.
thought that through.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, if he looks at it from a different angle, he
Yeah.
could still... So it would be better to stick it into the lead paint.
True.
Drop it in a paint bucket, and I don't even think that the disease control would have been able to find that bad boy.
True.
They weren't going to dump out paint buckets.
No, that's true.
So there you go. There's another opportunity. But we get into the next scene, and Kim pointed this out. It's not orange juice. It's lemonade.
Which is a weird morning beverage.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Maybe
thought
it's
so,
not
too.
more. Maybe it's lunch. Is it breakfast or lunch? Maybe it's like a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I'm not drinking lemonade in the morning. And so Martha coughs and coughs, and it's so quick acting from the spores going in to her being essentially choking.
I mean,
to
it's
death
clearly
on it.
like a super virus, so it would affect you quickly, but that affected her even quicker. Like, that had to mutate so fast.
Yeah.
From a watching point of view, I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, get this moving.
Yeah,
I don't
which
need her
is-
to get sicker
we only have
and
40
sicker.
minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So they have to take her to the hospital, and she's totally deteriorating quickly, and it sucks.
In reality, they would have trached her and put her on a ventilator, put her in like a comative state, and put a thing in her down her throat, like a whatever they're called, and
Put a tube down
yeah,
there.
or
Tracheal
if
tube.
her throat was closed, they would have cut a hole in her neck and put a tube
Yep.
down that way. But the fact that she's just on her own the whole time kind of blows my mind. It's not the greatest medicine I've ever seen, I will say.
Small town medicine. Dr. Helen Bryce.
It's also
Yeah.
early 2000s. I don't know if
I
that
don't
makes
think
much of a
mattered. I
difference.
watched Grey's Anatomy.
They always
They're
trick
always tricking people.
That's because they're all surgeons and they're obsessed with cutting. Anyway, speaking of cutting, we cut to the Talon, and Clark is delivering prizes for this raffle that's going on. It's kind of a big raffle party thing that Martha has planned, and Lana.
I have thoughts about that.
So let's talk about those thoughts.
Well, this is kind of jumping to the end, but if we'll talk about it more when we can analyze it. But no way in hell did she plan that party. It is not a party that like some mom is planning.
True.
When we get to it, it's like disco and like the colors are so weird. The music is crazy. Bananas.
Maybe Martha has a other side.
Maybe.
She got a
She's
dark
she's like,
side.
I hate this, but it'll bring in money.
But the fun thing about this episode is that we do get to see a little bit more dynamic between Clark, Chloe, and Lana. That love triangle is continuing.
Yeah.
If you can call that fun.
Gross.
Everyone kind of is drilling Clark about his mom because it seems off, and they're like, what's wrong, Clark? He's like, fine, I'll tell you. My mom's in the hospital. And then everyone's asking questions. And when Chloe asks her question, he's like, what is this, an interview? He snaps a little too hard at her.
Yeah.
And it really hurts her.
Which is totally teen appropriate.
Totally. They're very much teenagers.
Everything's personal.
Clark comes in carrying a cardboard box, right? Mm-hmm. Did you notice what that box was?
No.
No.
It was a gateway computer box.
Yeah.
right.
Get it.
If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's a computer company that doesn't exist anymore.
If they do exist, they've rebranded or they're like way behind the scenes or something.
I don't think they're a thing.
They might not be.
But I thought that was so funny that it was like a gateway computer.
Right?
Rewatch
Little
it.
flashback there for sure.
So when we get back to the hospital, we get to see Jonathan learning kind of in the worst way that his wife is pregnant.
So Kim, thoughts?
Oh my gosh. I did not know. Brett's like, that's the secret that
Yes.
Ryan was talking
And
about.
it was so funny because when we asked you that episodes ago, you were like, she's pregnant. Just kidding. She couldn't be pregnant. And I was like, ah!
We were all trying to keep a straight face when you said it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
You guys, I had no idea. This blew my mind. And I'm like, where could this go from here? I have
Right.
no idea.
Yeah. I guess we'll have
is
to see.
insane.
I hope
It's
they named
Ryan
the baby
reincarnate.
Ryan, right?
Oh.
Except Ryan was already alive when the baby was conceived, so it couldn't be Ryan
But they
reincarnated.
could name
Let's be
him
honest.
Ryan.
That would be
It's
good.
Ryan's replacement.
It's true.
Oh,
Well, this whole plot around this baby is setting up a layup for the next episode. So, we're getting this whole thing because Clark now gets to deal with having a potential younger sibling who's a biological sibling of his parents. And that can get a little bit messy. We kind of pop over to Helen's office, Helen Bryson.
No, her name's
Just
Helen
Bryce. Helen Bryce.
Whatever.
I did not like Lex in this episode.
No.
He was like snoopy, creepy.
know.
I don't know. He gave me weird vibes. And I normally love Lex, so.
We learn that Helen gets a fellowship to Johns Hopkins, which is a great, great school. She's a moron for not going.
Well, I kind of feel like this episode, they were like, they wrote the plot or something, or like whoever wrote it was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then somebody's like, well, where's Lex? And then then the person was like, oh,
Here.
crap. Let's have him kind of
not
hanging
on
around.
I have no qualms with saying it's the most pointless storyline. It goes nowhere.
I know.
Nothing happens with it.
Yeah.
She gets this offer. She thinks she's going to go, and spoiler, she doesn't go. So it really is a wasted plot point. And I think, Daniel, you're spot on. It was a way to get Lex into the episode.
Yeah.
And he's
to
creeping
have
on
some
medical
conflict
records
for him. And I mean, I think it just shows that she's really good.
Yeah. You do get more into like, oh, what is she truly like when it comes down to it, to the
That's
important
true.
things
I
in
like
this
that.
You do
episode?
get a lot of integrity from her.
Well, again, I think that she was a part of that original thing around
Yeah.
it, like, all right, we're going to get into Helen Bryce, and we've got all this stuff around the key and the toxins and blah, blah, blah. Oh, and where's Lex?
So Helen decides to call in the Center for Disease Control, right?
Oh, no. She calls in the DCA, the Disease Control
Oh,
Agency.
because we don't want to call it CDC. No.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
Disease Control Agency.
All I know is that if it's a 3-letter agency, I don't really like it. So,
So they say they're going to go look through the farm, and Jonathan tells Clark he needs to run and move the spaceship. This goes back to something I called a couple episodes back, where I said, why are the Kents not just having a bunch of Halloween decorations where it would not matter
so
that
smart.
there's an alien ship there? It
Exactly.
Just store all the
guys-
Halloween stuff. No one asks questions.
or build like a boat thing around it or something. Like, do something to disguise it, not just to have it sitting there.
with a tarp.
Or you could bury it at that point. Like they didn't think for 13 years there was anything necessary in it.
You mean there's like 20 different ways they could have disguised
They have
this?
backhoes and stuff. Just dig a hole, bury it, put a scarecrow on top, and no, that's the ship scarecrow.
Right, but no, we have to rush in and we have to take this tarp off that's covered in this dusty green goo.
And store it at Pete's.
Yeah, and Clark breathes it in and you're like, great, it's kryptonite laced, so he's now going to get sick. Did you believe he was
Yeah.
going to... So did you think he was going to just get weak, or did you think he was going to straight up get sick?
I 100% thought he would just lose his powers and get weak.
Oh.
Well, I mean, he does, but he's also so sick. He actually gets like the body weakness that you get when you're sick and everything,
No.
I love how all the individuals in this episode are surprised that Clark is sick. I know he's never been sick, but it's never dawned on them that he's never been sick until this episode.
Well, you know when you're sick and like all of a sudden you're like, I can't freaking breathe out of my nose, right? Do you ever notice when suddenly you can?
Oh, yeah. And while you're sick, do you feel like you forget what it's like to feel good?
Oh, yes. And I'm like, oh, I will never take this health for granted again. And then a couple weeks later, I take it for granted.
Right.
Then it slowly comes back, and a week later, you've completely forgotten what it was like to be sick again. You're just like, gone.
Well, Clark is driving the truck with the stupid ship in it. He gets all weak and woozy, crashes the truck, sort of. It's not like
It just slides halfway into a gully.
yeah, and then he can't pull it out.
And Pete gets angry.
Does he? I didn't notice he was angry.
Yeah, he's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's
Like,
kind of
I've
a
seen you
weird.
do this. Don't be weird. And then
My favorite is as they're trying to push this truck out, which I guess Clark gets his strength back so that he can. You see this line of cars coming, and Pete goes, X-Files alert. And then they're like, be cool, just stand here. We're just teens on the side of the road. Be cool. Like
pushing
they're-
our truck back.
Yeah,
on there.
so I'm like, I would notice. Like, it's not like there's a hill blocking this line of cars from seeing. Oh, look at that truck over there being pushed by two teens.
Yeah.
How
So-
are they doing
so-
They
that?
need help.
Because
You know?
I was laughing because Clark doesn't have his strength. I don't know if you guys have tried to lift a truck with
Yeah.
two people. They're literally lifting
It's
it off the ground
impossible.
to push it back up. That is crazy amounts
Well, I
of
think
strength,
he,
even
I
without
think
his
he has
superpower.
his powers back. I think it was just a moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or they're
He's
not
weak.
completely gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually has to really strain to get them. So the 3-letter agency shows up and they comb everything and they find the Octagon of Destiny. So annoying.
And they take samples of the ground around where it came from because they say, well, we found this in the storm cellar. And Jonathan says, well, Martha wasn't in the storm cellar. And Clark has to say, well, she was in there this morning.
And why couldn't they have been like, oh, the Octagon is a family heirloom?
Because they're stupid.
Yeah, they
Say,
never have good enough
We bought that at
excuses.
a flea market and we had this epic hide and seek game going on.
Yeah.
Whoever hides it the longest gets the best Christmas present.
Ding, ding, ding.
Just make something up.
There's a billion things they could say, but they won't because you need plot points.
Because we didn't write this show.
We need drama and stress.
Yeah. We get back to the hospital and we get some information on Martha's pregnancy.
Yes.
OMG, I know.
Jonathan asks her, like, why didn't you say anything? And Martha, her response is so cute. She says, I was afraid if I said it out loud, it would go away.
Oh.
So I've never been pregnant, but Kim, you've had that moment, right? Where you were like, I'm pregnant.
Yes.
And do you like keep it to yourself for a bit? Did you ever like have this moment where like only you were the only person in the world who knew?
No, I'm a blabbermouth. So I would tell at like 3 weeks, which was a bad idea, right? But I would take like 8 pregnancy tests because I would think it wasn't real. Yeah.
I didn't like that she describes why she hid the disc here. I understand her reasoning now. Okay, like I don't want Clark to leave. Maybe the ship zaps him away when they combine the two and takes him back to his home or something. Like there's all kinds of excuses you could think of in your head that make sense.
But
And
Martha would have said that up front.
yes, I think she would have.
Yeah. So she is saying to Jonathan, I hid the key because it's going to open the ship. And Clark's, I don't want him to leave us. And that's, I think, a very valid feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure parents of adopted kids probably
I
feel
just
this
feel
a
like
lot.
Martha would have not kept it from Jonathan.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they would have discussed it, and I think they both would have felt the same way about it.
So which secret is worse? I'm pregnant and doesn't tell the husband, or I hid the key and doesn't
I
tell
hid the
husband?
key.
I
It's
think
worse?
it's a double
Yes.
whammy. I'm like, Martha, what are you doing?
Well,
I'll blame it on the hormones.
Kate,
There you go, pregnancy brain.
think about the years of damage around pregnancy hopefuls at the beginning of their marriage that they couldn't get, and then the years after that of having this adopted son and still wishing they could give him a brother naturally. 20 years of pain that she's hiding from for the pregnancy? I get that. It's the other one that I think is worse, but especially because how she goes about it. And then it causes this whole problem that gets it caught, taken. They have to deal with the ship. And then Jonathan has to go say that it's crazy.
Yeah.
Now Clark's sick.
Which we get to see him take a spill down the stairs with Lana. Yeah, who liked that spill down the stairs?
It was horrible.
I was just shocked that he didn't like shatter the stairs as he fell, or that the house didn't
Yes.
blow up, or
Seriously, no explosion in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is there? There might be. We'll wait till we get to the heist scene. I wanted to talk about pregnancy math because in my teenage brain, I thought that she was conceiving the child like when the ship went glowy at the tornado. And so I was thinking, oh, she's been pregnant since then. But I don't think so.
No, it's that it healed her.
It healed her to be able to conceive a child. Oh. And so we only know for sure that she was pregnant right when Ryan came into the scene.
Which, how long ago was that?
Not too long, I don't think.
Okay.
Because tornado was June, July.
Sure.
May or June. There's a whole summer. We know that. We have Byron, then Ryan, and then Kyla and Ian. So,
like she could have been 2 weeks pregnant at most with Ryan.
She could have just found out, and that's why it's on her mind so much. And why Ryan's like, "Whoa, you got a secret."
And they did a good job with the ultrasound because it still looks like
it's little.
Yeah.
And she's not showing. Mm-hmm. But there you go. That was how I had to I was like, she's been pregnant for months because in my mind she was like pregnant the day of the tornado, but that's not true.
That she got conceived by an alien ship.
Right. Not true.
So when Lana visits Clark, she's asking him stuff, and he starts to open up about his childhood. And do you see her just like eat everything that he says up? She is desperate to get stuff out of Clark that's personal. So every single time that he opens up even a little bit, she's like, yes.
She's desperate for information.
Oh, give me some of that. Like she's like a freaking crack addict for Clark's personal feelings and thoughts and life.
But
she likes him.
Here's my problem though, right? They're supposed to be like the love story, okay?
Yeah.
But who comes visits him when he's sick and Lana gives some ridiculous excuse?
I couldn't see him like that.
I get it.
I didn't believe
I get it. It's fine.
When you want to be with someone, you want to be with them every second, and especially when they're sick.
Not if you're Nicole.
No, you're sick. You stay over there. I'll see you when you're fine.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, she has no desire to be around me when I'm sick.
Well, I mean like life or death, though, not a cold.
Yeah,
But
sure.
she doesn't know it's life or death. Because the mom is dying, so maybe it's a little more
he
serious
just
than we
stopped
think.
functioning.
He did just fall and
I would
hit his
not
head
leave
on the
Brett's
back of a
side.
staircase.
Yeah.
But I do love what they do with the next bit when Dr. Bryson comes over to look at Clark.
Her name is Dr. Bryce Daniel.
Whatever.
You guys, I was freaking out during this part.
Because she wants to take his blood, and Jonathan's like, no, you can't do that. You literally can't.
But you see that Jonathan's like about to crack the secret to Dr. Bryce because he is willing to do whatever it takes to save them. Saving Clark and Martha is even more important than keeping his secret.
Well, yeah.
And he's willing to do whatever it takes. And I love that. You get a good moment of Jonathan. He's like, come on, you can't do that.
Daniel, I'm proud of you. You said Dr. Bryce.
I did.
I'm proud of you.
I take everything back I said.
So Dr. Bryce takes Clark's blood, and Jonathan's like, holy hell, how'd you do that? And it just proves that Clark is really sick. Mm-hmm. And he says, listen, you can't let anyone process that blood but you. And she's like, why? And he goes, just do it yourself and you will see.
Which I thought was fun. You've now opened it up and somebody's going to know
know.
about Clark. Just know that something's different. Not necessarily know what or who he is.
Well,
You
but
don't have to explain the full thing.
die.
Yeah, no.
Yet.
Well, in the next scene, she's actually looking at the blood and she's like, oh my, she can't believe it.
And of course, creepy Snoopy Lex comes in.
I know.
Yeah. But he's also like really good to her because he's, very kind.
And Lex is like, I can help. Give me the info. And she's like, no.
So the next scene that we run into is, I literally thought of Daniel. I just went, this is Daniel's scene. And it's when Chloe comes to visit Clark and read him a letter of all of her feelings.
Oh, you guys, this was so cringy to me.
It's awful. Horrible.
I didn't know how to feel because one minute I was like, oh, this is so touching. And the next I'm like, oh, he says Lana?
Well, do you know why it's cringy to me? Because she's like touching his hair and stuff.
Ooh,
like if she had not touched him and just said the letter, I'd be like, okay. But the fact that she's like, caress. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
You read
without him knowing.
Twilight and love Twilight, where the stupid love interest watches her sleep and thinks about
Hey.
killing
we didn't
every
say-
single person in that
that's
room.
That's
Cringy.
not Twilight. That's Midnight Sun. Get your story straight.
Yeah, in Twilight, she doesn't know.
No,
She does know. She
in Twilight,
learns-
she knows that he just watches her while she sleeps. That's not creepy.
And she is fine with it.
Yeah, I'd be fine if you watched me sleep.
Brett, if you found out
Nicole, no.
that if you found out that a teenage boy watches your daughter, your 16-year-old daughter, sleep,
He wouldn't be watching anyone sleep anymore.
no.
No, would be because he's made of stone. Okay.
So
And guys, we brought up Twilight. No. Woo! Daniel brought up Twilight.
Daniel, what have you done?
well,
I had no
What have you
intention.
I'm
done?
trying to prove a point here because Nicole's like ew, 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 and it's like it's super funny because
No.
girls do this all the
No,
time.
no.
It's what I've talked about when we
We have
talked
double
about
standards? Yes, Daniel.
yeah,
Yes.
if women didn't have double standards, they would have no standards.
Yes.
But also, it's that whole thing where things are conveniently creepy or cute depending on
Our mood.
yeah. Like, see, this thing I thought was sweet because if I were a guy and I found out a girl did that, I would be
Flattered.
over the moon flattered. Oh my gosh, like, you know how good it feels for a girl to like sweep her hand through your hair? That is the best. And so I'm seeing that and I'm like, that's exactly what he would want. She's like, I don't know. I didn't think anything of it. It didn't seem that cringe to me. I loved the wording of the letter.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. Like, I'm the girl of your dreams masquerading as your best friend.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad because it's all like completely true.
It's well written garbage.
And she wants to be the girl that he grows into, not the girl he grows out of. And she's like crying. I did giggle and kind of cringe a little bit at, I hope one day you fly back to me.
Oh my gosh, I know.
That Goffin Miller had to throw that in.
It wasn't cringy until Clark kind of wakes up a little and says,
Yes.
Lana?
Yes, so annoying.
I was like, okay, like we get that he loves Lana. Like, couldn't we have just like, she says this beautiful thing and that's it?
He probably would have said, Mom? Like,
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And she would have been like, okay, he's out of it. Like he said it, Mom. But Lana, like I thought that was a bad writing choice.
Or
I
maybe
agree.
like it would have made more sense if like in her note she had finished her note and then she was kind of just like being like, I wonder what you'd do if Lana did this, and he said Lana like in
Yeah,
response because she
okay.
had like said it, and then he it was a key word that he was like, oh yeah, that's a name I like.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop a little spoiler. I've been saving this for a while, but I was listening to the podcast Talkville with the actors from Smallville.
Okay.
And they actually talked about Chloe, and there's a really interesting scenario that happened when they originally planned this series. So there's a point that you'll see in a later episode. She writes an article and she uses a different name, a pseudonym, right, for her article for the byline, and she uses her cousin's name, Lois Lane.
Oh.
The original plan with this cast was actually to have Chloe
Her
be Lois Lane.
Oh my god.
She was going to be Lois Lane. So this letter
You're
of like
breaking Daniel's heart.
no, so at this point it was supposed to be this letter of like, I will be your true love in the future, and that's why they had her in the show. And then they were just
Then they
testing
met
things
Erica
on acting,
Duran. They were
and
like,
they were like,
"That's
the
a
chemistry
hottie."
needs just the chemistry
Yeah.
was just different, and they decided to have Chloe fill a different role, and it worked really well the way it tied out. But they actually talk about how that was the original plan, was she was going to be the Lois Lane, and so it made sense to have all of this, and it changes that perspective when you watch the show. And I didn't want to ruin it, but just with
I like
this
that.
letter coming up, that's what it was supposed to be, and then it changes, which I actually like the change, but it's really interesting to see this letter and what this situation is with that perspective.
well, for those who are rooting for Chloe to find love, I promise you won't be disappointed.
I'm so excited.
I also promise a lot more frustration until you become not disappointed.
Seriously.
She does not have the best luck until she lands
the one.
the one for her that ends up being the one that she ends up with, and it's really good. I like
It's
it a
worth
lot.
it.
Let's talk about Jonathan Kent to the rescue, because that's basically the whole next sequence.
Okay, can we talk about this? I love Jonathan. He's an upstanding citizen, and he's law-abiding. except for when it comes to his family. And I think it's the cutest. I love this little like, hey, Clark, I'm going to go save your ma. And then he does this little like Mission Impossible thing. And I knew that Clark was going to show up, by the way.
She did call it.
Okay.
She's like, there's no way Clark's going to let him just go on his own.
Well, I have a question for you, Brett. Kim is in the hospital, really, really sick. You would go stay at her side, right?
Yes.
But then your kid gets sick and they're at home. Where do you spend the night?
Grandma comes. I don't know.
That's probably accurate. I would have grandma come or grandpa
And
come.
stay with kid?
Stay with kid. And we make this very clear to our kids. We love our kids with all of our heart, for sure. But Kim is number one. We are each other's number one, and our kids know very well that they are in second place to us.
He actually had to teach me this because I grew up, my parents were married, didn't super like each other, and we were always my mom's number one. And so when I married Brett, I was like, no, my kids come first. And he goes, actually, no, we come first, then our kids.
Yeah, I had it explained to me that your kids are kind of on loan to you until they grow up. So it's your job and they're theirs while you're raising them, but then they move on. They have their
gonna
own
leave,
families.
yeah.
And who do you have when they move on? You only have your spouse. So your spouse is number one above all else, because that's a
Yes.
relationship that you actually have to work on for your whole life. Yes, you have to work on your relationship with your kids, but they'll always be your kids.
Right. Well, and
Yes.
we decided to have kids as a couple, right? So that's part of it. So we know there's
Yeah.
sacrifices we make, even sacrifices of our own relationship for our kids, but we're making that choice together. So it's the prioritizing of us is still prioritizing them. But there's times where we go, no, kids, we're going on a date. And I know you might be doing this, X, Y, Z, might be struggling with this. We need an hour or two to remind, take some time with just us.
But Nicole, you're so right. That'd be so hard.
I know. And Jonathan does stay with Clark. And
You know Martha would
I'm
want
not
that.
sure why
Yeah, I don't
necessarily, because Clark's never ever sick. So it's, I don't know. I think if it was me, I'd stay with Martha because she's just a human and vulnerable. Clark isn't struggling as much.
Well, and to your point, you know that Clark is superhuman. You don't know how serious it is. You don't
Right.
because you're not the doctor.
Right.
But you go, Clark's superhuman. He passed out and he's up walking in a blanket.
Right.
I'm not staying here. I'm going to go be with
100%.
the hospital-ridden, bed-ridden one.
Well, yeah, Jonathan says they don't think Martha's going to make it through the night.
Yeah, I'd
So
be
it's
there.
really bad. And the reason why is because they won't put a freaking vent down her throat.
Well, all I really care about in the rest of this episode is three things. One, Pete should be in jail.
Yep.
Always.
We need to back up and explain.
So, I'm going to explain the background to this. So Jonathan goes and he sneaks in and he gets the disc.
it's a really long scene of him not talking and just like action and sneaky
Yeah.
sneak.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it.
Oh, I thought it was too long.
It was probably maybe too long, but I hated that they kind of draw out this car chase and then Pete slows down and they're trying to do that whole bait and switch thing for you. It's kind of fun, but they did it too much and Pete would be in jail for going that long in a pursuit.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if that was just like a couple hundred yards, it's no big deal really. They're just like, oh, well, we were chasing the wrong person.
Yeah, but you have sirens and lights for that long.
There's a helicopter chasing him.
I know it's
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, just kind of over the top. Like they should have like had him drive off and then pull off to the side of the road, be like, "Oh, I was just driving,"
Yes.
But it is the DCA and not the police, so there's a difference.
Yeah.
They still have military police, which
Seriously.
are arguably worse. But yeah, it's just kind of annoying. But we do get the fun part of Clark saving Jonathan from being arrested as well. And the fact that Jonathan does not wear gloves, puts his fingerprints all over everything,
I didn't even notice.
doesn't wear like a mask.
amazing.
So if there are cameras, they're screwed.
Did you notice how
is
many
Clark-
things the DCA's confiscated?
I know.
That is a lot.
Like everything from their house.
It kind of bothered me a lot.
Well, and then how did Clark in his weakened, blanketed self state show up? He's like, I made it do that. How?
Okay,
Why? Where? Why would you just come along to begin with?
I don't know.
you can dig down.
Like, was he waiting in the car? Like,
I snuck in the
like, Dad, I
car.
want to come with you. And Jonathan's like, no, stay there.
No,
He
he
should've said,
he
"Come
dug
sit."
down and just was like, I'm still sick, but he ran.
And walked quietly.
No, he he still has his superpowers. He's just weak. He just has to put more effort.
He
It's like
doubled the amount of time it would take
Yeah.
to run.
probably,
2 minutes.
but yeah,
Instead of being
it's-
there in 5 seconds. it
He's
took
like,
him a
I guess
couple
I'll try
minutes.
medicine for the first time in my life.
Where do you think this
I don't know.
warehouse is located?
I don't know.
Metropolis?
Also, for a disease control agency, why are there so many people with guns?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a
like
military
why do you have
base.
military police guarding all this stuff? I don't know. It was kind of weird.
It's
It
a
would
lot
be
of guns for a spore virus.
yeah, it would be in a lab in like DC or something.
yeah.
And
Not-
why are you protecting it with guns?
I know.
No one wants the disease.
Yeah,
So stupid.
Yeah,
whatever.
What are you hiding?
yeah. So then, the ship saves Martha and Clark.
Hold on. So the cops chase what we think is Jonathan and Clark. Did you think it was Jonathan and Clark?
100%.
So then
like,
Pete
oh,
comes
no.
out, and you know what they say? This guy doesn't fit the description.
They leave.
Why doesn't he fit the description? I wonder.
Hard to say. Hard to say.
He might
I
look
just
a
thought
little.
it was so funny.
Okay, so yes, we're at the hospital. Yes, the ship lights up and heals everyone, right?
But Martha's dead at this point.
Martha's
so.
dead.
She cut
I'm just
blues.
curious. So we know that the ship can heal people's insides to allow them to get pregnant. We discussed
Yes.
this. We know that it can save you from alien spores that have shut down your brain and body. That's what happens to Martha. We know it can save Clark. Did this blast that went through the whole hospital heal everyone?
I know.
Yes.
So I thought that
Everyone just walks
Everyone
out.
just walks out, and then there's no news article that, oh my gosh, a bunch of people just got healed after a flash of light
that
at
they
night.
all felt and
Yes.
saw. Like, there's wind in the hospital room. Helen Bryce is like, the light's blinding. Keep doing push-ups. Not push-ups. Keep doing CPR. It's essentially push-ups.
There's no questions here. Wow,
know.
we saw the flash of light, and she's alive, and we just let her walk home.
My
Yeah, I
ankle I
guess.
sprained 20 years ago. It feels so good.
Right.
She's like, my deviated septum. It's fixed.
So the baby's okay. Yay.
Yay.
You get to see that ultrasound. And then Lex meets this man and gets the files secretly, which I'm pretty sure this goes nowhere.
Oh, I'm glad.
I can't remember.
It's Martha's file, right?
Yeah,
Martha and Clark's, I think.
it's just Martha's.
Okay.
I think that
I thought he
Dr.
got Clark's
Bryson
file.
didn't release anything. And then Lex is like, hey, Helen, move in with me. And she's like, okay.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And that's
and
the
then
end
the
of that
amazing
little
party
plot.
that Martha did not plan.
I mean, if you look at this party, it is ridiculous. No way did Martha want this party.
Listen, I just had to call out that the lead singer of the band reminded me so much of the love interest in Princess Diaries.
Yes, I thought the
Yeah.
same thing.
It's the same guy. Just kidding.
No, it's not. The band is called Stedman, if
Yeah.
anybody cares.
I liked him.
I like the song.
Oh, there is a product placement in this scene we have to talk about really quick. Pete is DJing. He's like, yeah, Martha, I'll DJ. I'll be your volunteer. He hands Clark a CD called The Talon Mix, which was a thing that you could buy at like any store.
Yep.
It was all the music from the season. It was called the Talon Mix, and they made one for every season.
Yeah.
It's like a real thing. So this is the product placement to go buy the Talon Mix.
If you were to go on like YouTube Music or Spotify or Apple and like look up Smallville playlist, people have remade it
Which is
as the
essentially
Talon
the
Mix.
Talon Mix, yeah.
They'll call it the Talon Mix.
Please comment a picture of your CD if you have one of these.
Yeah, if you still have
That'd
your
be
Talon
so
Mix.
cool.
I looked. You can buy them online. They're
Oh
not
my
too
gosh,
expensive.
that's so cool.
But the wedge is getting driven deeper between Chloe and Lana. That's what some of that triangle love story plot is doing. It's driving the wedge between Lana and Chloe.
Gross.
Well, it's because Lana we didn't talk about this, but I'll mention it briefly. Lana found that love note. Chloe threw it away poorly. Lana finds it and is like, holy shit. Like, Chloe's got some deep feelings. I have feelings. So at this awkward, weird party, they're all just looking at each other. Like, Clark's looking at Chloe. Lana's looking at Clark. Chloe's looking at Lana. Everyone's looking at everybody. Pete's DJing. Like, what a party. And that's kind of how it
Bam,
ends.
scene.
That's
Just
a
lots
shindig.
of looks.
Okay, so on this episode, what do you guys think? Super or man?
I think it's super. I hate to say it.
It's super.
I think it's super.
I think it's a super episode. I think there's enough fun things that happen by all the characters, and the fact that we want to keep this as a must-watch episode. I think it's a super episode.
Yeah, I actually kind of had fun watching it, so I'll say super. And on that super amazing note, let's end.
Thank you for remembering Smallville with us. Join us next week when...
Clark doodles.
Lana sneaks a peek.
And Clark meets Superman.
Four friends on a mission. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. Talking Smallville every week. The podcast to gem. Smallville nights we laugh out loud. Every week they make us proud. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In the world we find our thrill. Heroes fly and legends grow. Stories shared, they make it flow. From Clark Kent to Lex's schemes, they uncover every dream. Smallville nights we laugh out loud. Every week they make us proud. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In the world we find our thrill. Watching tales of old, their voices pure gold. Every twist, every turn, with them there's much to learn. Smallville nights we laugh out loud. Every week they make us proud. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In the world